Hey guys, Will here, Flawless Exotic Creations, coming to you guys with another video. And someone brought it actually to my attention. I didn't really know much about it as far as with the Bell complex, with the butter complexes versus lesser. We've always thought that they were the same exact gene, and apparently there are actually different genes. Hopefully, again, disclaimer, guys, we're new. I want to say, hey, we all have opinions, and I don't want to sound pushy or sound like I'm a genius, because believe me, I'm not. But certain things jump out for me as common sense when it comes to questioning certain things. And I want to do a video where it can't be, taken out of context, and it can't be seen as a sign of disrespect for the people who have done all the hard work to figure out these things. So in some of my research, I've seen that Mark and Kim Bell, as well as Ralph Davis, one brought in butter and the other brought in lesser, roughly around, I think it was 2000 and 2001. I do a lot of research, guys. But here it is, we're over 20 years later, and we're still researching a lot of these genes that we've kind of, sold back and forth over the years, mixed together, made supers on the visual side of supers, blue-eyed leucistics, and come to a point of where we are now, where in 2025 we have genetic tests for lesser as well as butter. Now, this is where the opinion on my perspective, I want to kind of throw it out there. My questions for it is, now, if you're working with lesser or working with butter or both, and 20 something years, almost 3 decades later after it's been discovered, and it's been kind of transferred and traded and sold all over the world at this point, and you start coming up with genomes and genetic, typing it out, I think, in my opinion, it probably would have been a better approach to it than maybe what has been done. Is maybe someone can, rethink it a little bit, or maybe I'm completely wrong, because that's very, very possible. But I see that they've said that lesser and butter are different, and that one is more rare than the other. That being said, they've already kind of put that step forward and said, I believe they said butter is actually more rare than lesser, and lesser is more common. So my question is, how do we know that? If you put lesser and butter together and they make bells, and you now breed that male or female, and you create more lessers and butters, you don't even know which one you're creating, whether it's an actual lesser or it's a butter. And here it is almost 30 years later, and we're finally getting genetic tests all situated for it. And we kind of just flipped a coin and said, I like butter, the name, better, or I like lesser, the name, better. We're going to say that this one is more rare than this. Is that fair to the people who discovered them? Is kind of my question. I think more so, maybe it's the right way, maybe it's the wrong way to approach it. But I just want to throw it out there. And it's, again, with all due respect to everyone and the people who've been doing it way before we jumped into the game, it might have been better to say, hey, we're going to work on this Bell complex, butter and lesser, and we're going to type them. It's going to be type 1 or type 2. Now, whether it's called lesser or it's called butter, when it gets sent into the testing facility, it will fall into one of the 2 categories. The reason I think that will solve a lot of the confusion with that is because for years, lesser and butter has been considered the same exact gene. So I think it's a disservice to the actual gene, and maybe the people who discovered it as well, if, let's say, for instance, butter is more rare than lesser is, but what in the genetic makeup that we will never find out, because genetic test was not around, back in 2000. But what if lesser is more rare, and it's just a flip-flop of the name, or we just kind of picked the name out of the hat, when we bred our Bell, which was a combination of lesser and butter, and got offspring that's also lesser and butter, and they're all the same thing. So I just kind of want to put that out there, something to think about. I know we ran into that previously, not us specifically, but us as a community ran into that previously, kind of jumping the gun with DG, A, B, and C, and ended up now it's just a DG test. But with butter and lesser, I think it's slightly different because, again, visually you're getting the same display of the animal, much like you have yellow belly and the different yellow belly tests out there. But kind of picking a name and actually throwing it out there as being more rare than the other, for me, the way I'm processing it, and again, down below in the comments, we can have a great discussion. Please explain to me why I'm wrong. I love to learn and love to educate myself, but it seems to a certain extent that jumping the gun in this manner, for anyone that is working lesser and butter in their projects, can be almost a form of indirect gaslighting, is the best way I can put it. You know, if I was a huge supporter or huge person that thinks lesser is a different display and I've been working with it for 20 years and now you're telling me my gene is common, I can see it as you're kind of gaslighting me in a way to kind of throw myself out there. And you guys know we have enough confusion in the community. We have enough people kind of going at each other. Just trying to think of keep an open mind and how we can approach situations like this as we continue to move forward as a community, as more genetics come out in the present day where these tests, evaluations, and combinations weren't even thought of or discovered or invented or even worked on 20 plus years ago. So again, comment down below on what's the best way we move forward as a community in the entire hobby. How can we be more inclusive when it comes to some of the testing, some of the labeling on how it's going to be done? Again, to each his own. Much respect out there to all the testing companies that's doing their due diligence to bring us these amazing, awesome, fantastic tests. But when it comes to typing the tests out, I don't know, maybe we should just keep a little bit more of an open mind on how we go about that. But let us know what you think. It's Will, Flawless Exotic Creations, and we out.